Grandma Rose died in 2024. I was 23 then, and it felt like the world had cracked open. I, a 23-year-old guy named Ethan, had lived with her since I was 17, ever since I'd walked out on my dad, stepmom, and their pack of hyenas disguised as step-siblings. The last year before she passed, I'd shouldered a lot of the bills and responsibilities. It had been sudden, and I hadn't expected it to happen so soon. We were a team, Grandma Rose and I, against the world. And now I was alone. Not entirely, I guess. I had the house, the very house my dad grew up in, the one Grandma Rose had fiercely protected for decades. I had her memory, etched in every corner, in the scent of lavender she always wore, in the well-worn cookbook she used every Thanksgiving. I could almost see her bustling around the kitchen, her hands stained with flour, her voice humming a cheerful tune. I had the worn armchair where she'd read me stories, the garden she'd tended with such love and care, the old piano where we'd butcher Christmas carols every year, and I had her will, a document that was about to unleash a fresh hellstorm on my life. See, I was also no contact with my dad and his clan. Grandma was too. It wasn't just a casual estrangement, it was a scorched earth policy born from years of neglect, abuse, and betrayal. To understand that, you gotta understand the backstory. My mom, well, she changed her mind about me. Left when I was just a few months old. Couldn't handle the responsibility, I guess. She left me with my grandparents, my dad's parents. My dad, David, was in the military at the time. He retired after that deployment and took me home. My grandpa died a year later, so I don't even remember him. Grandma Rose stepped up. She was always there, helping him raise me. When I was 5, Dad met Sharon. She had kids a little older than me, and Dad was ecstatic. He wanted us to be a family. He got me so hyped up. I vividly recall my dad saying our family was growing that day, that he was finally going to give me the loving mother and siblings I deserved. The first meeting went okay, but it was all downhill from there. The second time, Sharon's kids, who weren't step-slippings yet, ignored me. Any mention of me or Dad resulted in tantrums. A few weeks later, we moved in together. So 2 meetings and suddenly, boom, we were a blended family. Then the wedding took place a month after that. It was very low-key, with hardly anyone there, just the 5 of us and a few witnesses. I remember my 2 oldest step-siblings shoving me to the floor because we were supposed to be getting ready in the same room, waiting for the parents. They didn't want me with them. I remember staring up at the ceiling, the cold tile pressing against my cheek, and the sound of their giggling echoing in my ears. It felt like a clear message. You don't belong here. What happened at the wedding wasn't an isolated incident. It became the blueprint for my childhood. Neglect, bullying, emotional and physical abuse. The step-siblings, they were relentless. Name-calling, shoves, stealing my things, locking me in rooms. They saw me as an intruder, an obstacle to their perfect family picture. They treated me like a servant, a nuisance, a mistake. My dad and stepmom, they did nothing to stop it. They'd tell me it was hard for my step-siblings, that they had lost their dad and sometimes it made them a little angry, but they would never hurt me intentionally. Except they did, both physically and emotionally. They gaslit me, made me feel like I was overreacting, that I was making things up. They told me to be grateful for having a family, to stop causing trouble, to just try harder to fit in. My dad and stepmom started getting annoyed with me because I'd go crying to them about it. I was ruining their happiness, their newfound family bliss. I remember the way they would sigh, the dismissive tone in their voices, the way they would pat me on the head and tell me to be strong and stop being so sensitive. It was like I was invisible, a ghost haunting their perfect little world. My grandma stepped in multiple times and tried to talk sense into my parents, and especially to Dad. He told her he had met the love of his life and wouldn't end the marriage for anyone. She pointed out that I needed him and had no one else. He said that was bullshit, and I had a mom now. Grandma said I would never be equal to or before the older kids who were my stepmom's bio kids. Dad said, that's just how it works. Grandma said not with him apparently, which Dad resented. Grandma tried to take me more to make up for it, but my dad and stepmom protested and refused to allow it because it meant excluding my step-siblings. Meanwhile, my step-siblings would tell me if I couldn't live with Grandma, It was sad my mom didn't get rid of me before she left Dad. Those words, whispered in my ear, cut deeper than any bruise. They were the knives that twisted in my heart, reminding me of my abandonment, my worthlessness. My grandma actually called CPS on my stepfamily, and that didn't actually result in being no contact, which still surprises me. Nothing was done by CPS despite them saying my dad and stepmom needed parenting classes, and warning if I kept getting hurt I'd be removed. They made the threat, but did not follow through. It felt like everyone, even the people who were supposed to protect me, had abandoned me. I was trapped in a nightmare with no escape. Then came a day where we were all at Grandma's house. I was 11 at the time, and my step-siblings would have been 13, 14, 16, and 17. One of them shoved me really hard because I wanted to sit in the only free chair, and it was next to them. Grandma went off on them, which set my stepmom off. Then Dad defended his wife and stepkids, and it all came to a stop because Grandma called my step-siblings little monsters who shouldn't be allowed around other kids because they liked beating them up. It was the culmination of years of pent-up anger, of watching her grandson be systematically abused and neglected. It was a dam bursting, years of resentment and pain finally erupting. Grandma refused to apologize, and as my dad and stepmom were forcing us all to leave, which meant forcing me to leave, Grandma said they were all monsters, and she told Dad he was not coming back from that moment. That was it, the line in the sand, the declaration of war. That day marked the end of my childhood, the shattering of any illusions I had about family. My dad and stepmom stopped me from seeing Grandma for years. They poisoned my mind, painting her as a vindictive old woman who was trying to ruin their lives. I believed them for a while, until I started seeing through their lies, until I realized that Grandma was the only one who had ever truly cared about me. I got back in touch with her a week before I moved out at 17 when they called the police and tried to drag me back and accused my grandma of abusing my step-siblings, but I got to stay and no charges came from any of the accusations. I remember packing my meager belongings, my heart pounding in my chest and walking away from that house for the last time. It was a moment of freedom, a chance to start over, to build a life for myself without their toxicity. Back to today, when Grandma died, she had a strong will in place. She left my dad $100. That was the minimum she could leave him so he couldn't sue for the rest, which she gave to me. I got Grandma's house, which was my dad's childhood family home. I got the rest of her money, her and Grandpa's sentimental possessions, and she had some investments too. My dad tried to go after it, saying as her only child he should get everything, but her will stopped it. She left nothing to his wife or her kids. So then they started contacting me, at first through lawyers and then on socials, saying I should be dividing it evenly and giving Dad what he deserves, then shaming me for accepting it when she excluded my siblings. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign of guilt and manipulation. The lawyers were polite, professional, outlining Dad's rightful claim and suggesting a settlement would be in everyone's best interest. The social media messages were raw, venomous, filled with accusations and insults. They twisted the knife, reminding me of all the times I had felt alone, unwanted, unloved. The step-siblings, it seemed, were leading the charge on that front, launching personal attacks on my appearance, my intelligence, and my character. My dad even tried coming to the house to talk, showing up on my doorstep, unannounced, uninvited. When he started to shame me for accepting it, when she disrespected our family, I told him she was right. They were all monsters. They didn't deserve anything. I only made him more mad. His face turned red, his fists clenched, and for a moment I thought he was going to hit me. He didn't. He just spat out a string of curses and stormed off. But that wasn't the end of it, not even close. This was war, and they were just getting started. The legal letters started coming more frequently, the tone becoming increasingly aggressive. They were contesting the will, claiming Grandma Rose was mentally incompetent when she wrote it, influenced by me, a gold-digging grandson. The audacity! It was a blatant lie, but they were determined to drag me through the mud. They were challenging her capacity, digging up old medical records and interviewing distant acquaintances to try and paint a picture of a senile old woman who was easily manipulated. Then came the whispering campaign, Rumors started circulating among my distant relatives, people I hadn't seen in years, stories about how I had manipulated Grandma, how I had turned her against my father, how I was squandering her hard-earned money. I even heard that Sharon, my stepmom, had been calling up old neighbors and spreading lies about me, twisting the narrative to paint me as the villain, a heartless monster who had stolen from his own family. It felt like my entire life was being dissected and judged, my reputation torn to shreds. But the worst part was the phone calls. Late at night, my phone would ring, and on the other end would be Sharon's voice, dripping with sarcasm and venom. She'd taunt me, reminding me of the pain I had caused her children, accusing me of trying to erase them from my father's life. She'd claim I was ruining the family legacy, that I was destroying everything her and Dad had worked so hard to build. She'd say the cruelest things designed to trigger my deepest insecurities, to remind me of my worthlessness. One night, the call was different. It was my dad. He sounded tired, defeated. He started by apologizing for everything that had happened, for the way he had treated me, for the pain he had caused. He said he realized he had made mistakes, that he had put Sharon and her children before me. He said he missed me. He said he wanted to try to repair our relationship. He confessed that he had been foolish, blinded by his love for Sharon and his desire for a normal family. I was skeptical. After all these years, after all the abuse, could he really have changed? Was this just another tactic to get his hands on the inheritance? I told him I needed time to think, that I wasn't ready to forgive him. I needed to process everything he had said, to sift through the years of pain and betrayal, and try to find a glimmer of truth. The next day I received a package in the mail. Inside was an old photo album filled with pictures of my dad and me when I was a little boy. There were pictures of us playing in the park, building sandcastles at the beach, celebrating birthdays. There were pictures of a father who seemed to genuinely love his son. It was a painful reminder of what had been lost, of the bond that had been broken. I spent hours looking through that album, tears streaming down my face. It stirred up memories I had long suppressed, memories of a time before Sharon, before the abuse, before the estrangement. Was there still a chance for us? Could we somehow salvage what was left of our relationship? Did I even want to? Just as I started to consider reaching out to him, I received another phone call. It was one of my step-siblings, Sarah. She was crying. She told me that Dad was sick, that he had been diagnosed with a serious illness. She begged me to come see him, to forgive him before it was too late. She said that he talked about me all the time, that he regretted losing me, that he wanted to make things right. She said he had been racked with guilt, finally realizing the damage he had done to me. I was torn. On the one hand, I wanted to believe them, to believe that my dad had finally realized the error of his ways. On the other hand, I was afraid of being hurt again, of being manipulated and used. Was this just another attempt to get me to drop the lawsuit over the inheritance? Was this a final act of desperation, a calculated ploy to tug at my heartstrings? Was he truly repentant, or was he just afraid of dying alone? The weight of the decision pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. My past, my present, and my future seemed to hang in the balance. I decided to go visit him. I had to see for myself, to look him in the eye and try to gauge his sincerity. I had to decide once and for all whether to forgive him or to let him die with the knowledge that he had lost his son forever. The car ride felt like an eternity, my mind racing with questions, doubts, and fears. Was I making the right decision? Was I walking into a trap? So there I stood, outside the door to his hospital room. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. What lay beyond that door? Forgiveness? Reconciliation? Or just more heartache? This is my story, and it's far from over, but now I want to hear yours. Ethan's story is a powerful reminder of the lasting impact of childhood trauma and the complexities of family relationships. It also highlights the importance of having someone who believes in you even when no one else does. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision about family and forgiveness? Have you ever had to confront someone who caused you great pain? Share your experiences and insights in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is going through a similar situation. Let's start a conversation and support each other. Your thoughts and opinions matter, both here in the comments and on the YouTube video. Let's build a community where we can share our stories and find strength in each other's experiences.